All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. After winning 101 games last season, which was followed by a bevy of spending over the winter, the New York Mets entered this MLB season expected to make another postseason push. The injury bug, among other things, has gotten to the Mets so far this season, but it has not impeded their progress on the baseball diamond as through 21 games. New York is 14-7 as they've picked up right where they left off from last season. A big reason for the solid start this season for the Mets has been all-star first baseman Pete Alonso, who is on pace for a historic season. Through 21 games, Alonso is batting 293 with 10 home runs and 23 runs batted in, as he is leading the National League in both homers and RBIs. Now, in 2019, as a rookie, Alonso became the first and only player in Mets franchise history to hit at least 50 homers in a season. And his torrid start here in 2023 makes you wonder not only if he can do it again, but will he be able to get to 60? Alonso is already he's already fifth all time for the Mets in career homers with 156. And at the rate that he is currently going, he might become just the fourth player in franchise history to reach the 200 homer mark. And he could do it by season's end, the way things are looking right now. Now, in my opinion, Alonso has the potential to be for the Mets this season what Aaron Judge was for the New York Yankees last year. And of course, Judge had that historic season where he became the first player in American League history to hit 62 homers. And of course, I talked about that heading into last season. I did expect him to have a big year because it was a contract year. Now, for Alonso, he is not set to be an unrestricted free agent after this season, but he's going to be there after the 2024 season. And obviously, he wants that big payday. And I said this over the offseason. I said, the Mets have gone back. They've given big deals to the likes of Brandon Nimmo and Jeff McNeil. And Big Pete wants to cash in as well, and rightfully so. He came in this year arguably in the best shape of his career. And you know what? So far, the proof is in the pudding for what he is doing with his bat at the plate. And obviously, players don't like to talk contract during the season. Players don't like to get things done during the season. They want to wait until the offseason. And I'll tell you like this. I thought maybe the Mets might have gone and pushed the envelope to get taken care of Alonso last offseason. But at the end of the day, the longer they wait, the more it's going to cost them. So honestly, the way that things are looking for Pete Alonso, you could be talking about a guy right now that's probably going to be in that 275 to maybe 300 window as far as his deal goes, if not a little bit more. But nonetheless, you're talking about a guy who has thunder in his bat, one of the most prolific power hitters in Major League Baseball currently. And he's a guy that the fan base of the Mets definitely gravitates to. CJ, long time. How have you been? Yes, this is live. And I'm talking about a player from a rival team of your favorite team. And of course, I know that you're a Braves fan. I'm talking about one Pete Alonso with the Mets, and he is, he's off to a strong start this year. And it's a big reason why the Mets have been able to stay more than afloat in the National League. You look at it, obviously, the Mets are in the midst of a West Coast swing right now. So far, so good for the Metropolitans on the left coast. They're 7-1 so far. They got a game in a little bit against the San Francisco Giants. And then, of course, they finish up tomorrow in Frisco as well. CJ saying, whatever the Mets do in the long run, they will not beat my Braves. I'll touch on that in a moment. But definitely, for Pete Alonso right now, this could be his career year. This could be his best season. He's been in the MVP mix in the past, but obviously, if you do something special for a season, that's definitely going to vault you up. And I'll tell you like this: if he gets to that 50 or 60 home run mark, definitely you're going to be talking about a guy that's going to be an MVP, and that's something. If my memory does not fail me, I don't think the Mets have ever had an NL MVP play for them. And typically, when you think about the Mets franchise, which has been around now for about 60 years, their bread and butter has always been pitching. It's not been hitting, and always it's always been tough for them for a variety of reasons to keep guys there throughout the bulk of their career at least. Um, and that's a big reason why the career mark of home runs is still held by Darryl Strawberry for the Mets at 252, and you figure Straw is a guy that has not played for the Mets since 1990. A lot of Met fans hoped that David Wright was going to be that guy, but obviously back injuries on the latter part of his career took away from that. But nonetheless, getting back to Pete Alonso, this guy right here has the potential, should he stay in a Met uniform, to shatter all of those power marks and slugging marks in the franchise's history. And he has a big opportunity to do something special this year. But getting back to, talking about Alonso with the potential to get a big deal, and he's going to get a big deal, make no mistake about it. It's one of those for the Mets, aside from being, their guy in the middle of their lineup, and of course, flashing the leather at first, he's also a leader on this team. And that's going to be something that's going to factor in as well. The fan base there in New York loves him as well. So it's kind of a slam dunk if you're the Mets that you definitely want to get this done. But nonetheless, coming back to this season, I think if Pete Alonso stays healthy, he has the opportunity to have himself another 50 plus season. I'm not going to sit up there and say, well, this guy's going to hit 60 or 65 home runs because you always got to factor in the injury bug as well. And not only that, there's always going to be ebbs and flows to a season. Guys are going to get in slumps, you name it. But nonetheless, for the Mets right now, this power surge by Pete Alonso has been needed because you look at their rotation, which was expected to be a backbone of this team. Obviously, it has not been that way so far. Justin Verlander has yet to take the mound in a game for the Mets. Max Scherzer, of course, is serving a suspension. Carlos Carrasco is on the IL, and he wasn't pitching well before he went to the IL as well. But obviously, with the Mets right now, they've been able to show some of their depth. As I can't even say they've been able to stay afloat. This is a solid start. They're 14-7. They're a half game behind the Braves in the NL East. I think that both of these teams, it's going to be nip and tuck throughout the season uh, for that top spot in the National League East. But nonetheless, you've got your lineup carrying you so far. If you're the Mets, of course, with Mr. Alonso leading the way. CJ, very quick, like you're saying, look how good we've been in regards to the Braves so far with a lot of injuries, and I think that's a testament to their depth. And it's the same thing with the Mets. I think when guys can step up when other players are injured, it shows your depth, but within your organization. But then it also factors in to your coaching because Brian Schnicker in Atlanta, and then of course Buck Showalter with the Mets. These guys have been around the block. Obviously, Buck Showalter much more than Brian Schnicker, but nonetheless, you know what? You got to put your guys in the best possible position to succeed. And then on top of that, you have to have guys on your team that know that we need to answer the bell. And in this situation for the Mets, a guy like Pete Alonso has definitely done that so far. So, of course, the question is going to be with Alonso in this strong start, will he be able to keep it up? I think he will. I don't think this is, a flash and pan moment because he has shown throughout his brief MLB career that he's not just a flash in the pan. I mean, you figure with the exception of 2020, which was the shortened season, Pete Alonso has put up big numbers at the plate throughout his career. Now, his batting average has definitely improved so far. I think it will cool off because I mean he's batting 293 now. I think when it's all said and done, he's like typically a 275, 280 type hitter in that range. But obviously, with the great sluggers, they have those moments where they can put a team on their back for a couple of weeks and then they go into cold spells like anybody else. But nonetheless, definitely a strong start for Pete Alonso. Let's see how long he can keep it up. And if he keeps playing like the way that he is, the Metropolitans will definitely get their first MVP in franchise history. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There is also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. CJ, as always, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for chiming in. And one thing that I've said before, and I will continue to say about Major League Baseball, and of course, I'm not the only one. The season is a marathon. It's definitely not a sprint. So, with that said, we're going to have plenty to talk about between now and the fall during the regular season, and of course, the postseason. So, I think, some of the good teams are starting to show their worth. We're still here in the month of April. There have been some surprises, both good and bad. I will definitely be touching on that in the next couple of weeks. But some of the contenders in both leagues are, beginning to flex their muscles, and there are some teams that I do expect to pick it up as well. But nonetheless, we will definitely have a lot to be talking about in the coming weeks and months. So, with that said, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I'm signing off and saying thanks again for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Be well, everybody.